working with clients who are stuck in pre-contemplation. It's like sometimes it makes me want to pull my hair out. It can be so hard to sit with clients who are stuck in that pre-contemplative stage of change, that stage where they're not yet ready to talk about it, not yet really willing or ready to explore why this change might be good for them. And sometimes it's crazy making because we're sitting with them. It's like sitting with someone who has a nail stuck in their head and they're not willing to talk about the nail. They're not ready to talk about the nail yet. It might be really obvious to us. They might be suffering from consequences of that change yet, but they're still in that protective place of not yet being ready or willing to talk about it. And this can be so hard as helping professionals to sit with clients who are perhaps week after week, year after year, stuck in that pre-contemplative stage. And sometimes we can feel like wanting to just yank that nail out of their head or fix it or do something about it or persuade or warn or threaten them to try to get them to see the need to change. But we know that that usually backfires. It usually damages the relationship, keeps them from wanting to talk about it, maybe not want to see you again. And in fact, when we argue for change, when a client's not ready yet, they usually argue against that change, which is like the opposite of what we're trying to get them to do. We want them to see the benefits of that change. So motivational interviewing offers 5 tips for working with clients in this pre-contemplative stage of change. So the first of those tips I'm going to give you today is check your tude, check your attitude. Think about what it is you're bringing to the room or the conversation with the client. Returning to that spirit of motivational interviewing where you can practice acceptance, where they're at in this process, acceptance and compassion for being in pre-contemplative. It's a protective place. It's a not ready yet. There are reasons why this person is not yet ready to talk about or willing to look at that change. So our own attitude toward the client, that's the first thing that we can do as providers. The second thing we can do as providers is to talk about that affirmation of that decision is up to them. So that's essentially an honoring client autonomy kind of statement. Whatever you decide to do is up to you. Sometimes I call this the drop the rope statement. You know, it's like we're engaged in a tug of war and we're like, you should change. And our clients are like, but I can't. There's too much going on, you know. And so we're tugging. And when we set down that rope, drop the rope, remember, affirm this decision is up to them. Whether you want to talk about it, it's up to you. Whether you want to explore this change is up to you. Because really, that's the truth. It is. They are going to be living with the outcomes of their choice one way or the other. So tip 2, affirm the decisions up to them. Tip 3, acknowledge with them that they're not yet ready. So just say, perhaps this isn't most important thing right now. This is not something you're yet ready or willing to talk about. So one thing that we can do to build on that is tip 4, which is meet them where they're at, right? Explore what it is they are willing to talk about or willing to change. So perhaps fill in the blank is not important to you right now, or you don't see that as a priority. What would you like to use this time to talk about? Of these other things going on, what would you like to explore a little bit more? So we do our best. I mean, essentially the goal of all of these tips is to stay in relationship and engagement with our clients. Because if we stay in that relationship, then when there is that readiness or willingness, they see us as someone who's not judgmental, compassionate, not going to take away their autonomy or warn or threaten them, and therefore more likely to come to us about this conversation around change, around a vulnerable change. So considering them to explore what it is that they're willing to talk about or engage or support around. That's tip 4. Tip 5 is exploring the positive aspects of the change. If you were to fill in the blank, we might say to a client, what might some of the benefits be of that happening? If you did make this change, what might be better or different in a few months or in a year or more? So there is such an opportunity there to engage in kind of like a hypothetical change conversation. And so we really want to watch for resistance here or discord. Like if a client's like, you know, and starts to argue against change, then they're also not yet ready to have that conversation. But we can bring it up and explore and encourage positive aspects of making that change in a way that is not threatening or persuading. if you were to decide to make this change, which is entirely up to you, what might be great about it, or what might be good for your health or for your relationships about it. So again, our goal is to try to stay in relationship with our clients. I think of it like when folks are in pre-contemplation, the metaphor I think of is like, how do I leave that door open? How do I keep that door cracked open so that when they are ready or willing to talk about this change, that they are likely to come back and work with me on it? All right, or someone, work with someone on it. Okay, y'all take care. Let me know if you have additional little tips that you have learned in working with clients who are in the pre-contemplative stage. Would love to hear them.